Okay, so moving on from our design system, we'll start working on our wireframes. And what I want to do is basically just create a new artboard in our document. We can duplicate this one or just add a new one as well. So I'll go to the artboard tool. The size of the document's already pre-configured, so we could just use that again and hit insert artboard. And it does the trick for us, so we'll have that all ready to go. We're gonna ignore styles for the sake of this video and focus on layout. So wireframes are especially useful for this case. And I'll actually just reference a lot of what we did on our original document and go to town there. So this should be a quick video for the sake of your attention span. But the idea is to kind of just give a layout and figure out what it is we're gonna do with this blog. So I'm going to call this wireframes, maybe index view, which will be the home page. So we want to initially have articles for our navigation. So we'll have articles, do a few spaces, and probably call this, what else did I give it? It was articles, about, and contact. So with that, we can make use of our textiles again. Why not? So I'll go up into our contextual menu and use it here. We can just say nav text. And from there, you can just kind of configure the way you see fit for where these things should live. I typically like to work on a grid. So what I end up doing is going to view guides manager, and I'll make of course, the basic vertically centered and horizontally centered fashion. Typically in the web design, there's a specific width that you can design for that's on most screens, that works for most screens. It used to be 960 pixels, but it's since grown, since screen sizes have grown over the years. So I'm gonna just do like 1170 maybe to start, just as a general guideline. I like to create a box of that width first and then drag guides out to those edges. It's a little simpler to do that than to try to configure this on your own. You can certainly come back and edit these to be exact points, which I'm going to do now. So 259. And this document in particular is actually a little too big. So we actually want it to be for maybe 1600 total. And then I'll actually redo those guides, make this centered. So reconfigure those. This will be right there. So now those coordinates should be a little more exact. Okay, so with that done, we could just delete this shape. And the concept here is this is the at least central point of our design. We don't have to follow it to a T, but it is a nice guide to have so we know where to align things and where they'll stay centered on our design. Our concept's more or less a full width. So we're going to make use of the full screen viewport of your browser, and that's the concept in mind. So I'll go to View, Studio, and Assets to bring that back up. I actually want to use these. And if you drag this over here, you'll see it highlight and affix itself. And I'll just bring out the black logo. And it might need to be a little smaller, but we'll run with it for now. And I think I'll make a basic rectangle that's going to be a vertically aligned navigation bar on the left. So the far left will feature this, and you can set it at a set width. 113 pixels is pretty large, so maybe we'll do 60 or so, maybe more than that, 70. So with that, we'll actually want to decrease the size of this to be, say, 32. And to avoid actual color, I'll just make this a grayscale container just to give a context of, hey, that shape is filled. And then below that, we want to add some social sharing options for the person involved in the blog. And in this case, I'm designing it for myself, but it's more or less could be anyone in this who wants this design. So I'm going to bring out a dribble icon, Twitter icon. And this can be super rough. You don't have to go even this far. A lot of wireframes anymore are either sketched by hand or just jotted down. So it's not a big deal if this doesn't look spectacular from the start. And I think I had an email one at the very bottom. So we'll align these vertically. We can go to our alignment, drop down here and do this way. Hit done. So we'll save that. So that's our essential first navigation component that's already built in. We can group that. Shift clicking all these objects and grouping them. Just say vertical navigation. And then over here we have our traditional navigation, which is a more global component. And my idea stemmed from creating a big, large feature image on the left side. So no matter where you are on the site, you'll have an image shown. It might not be pertaining to anything on the homepage, but it's going to be like the most recent article in my mind. So the idea is that that will be the feature image for it. I use a app called Nucleo to just get some general icons in the mix for our design. I'm going to bring up just an image, just any of these images based on what icons you have here by default work. I'll probably just use this one. I need to probably jump out of full screen mode, bring Nucleo up, and then drag it in. And it's going to be an embedded document from that point of view. If you want it to actually be something you change the color to, you'll want to open it separately in Affinity Designer. So keep that in mind. Right now I'm just going to use it as is and just bring down the opacity, because we're not actually going to use this in our final design. It's just for concept. Shift click and have those two things selected. We can align those better as well. So central vertically and central horizontally. Great. And then I had on the initial concept basically our card idea coming over. Maybe a call to action down here in the final design. We'll configure that a little better. And then over here will be a series of articles that have already been published. So from that, it's just a basic category, a title, and an excerpt. So we can add those accordingly. So I'll go and get our textiles ready. So I'll just do this by hand just to show you context. Let's say what news. Something like that. That's where we ended up. And then a traditional article, we can duplicate this artboard by doing an Option Shift click and then dragging, and just call this single view or detail view. And only thing that'll really change here is just how the content is formatted over here. We might make things a little wider and a little larger. So this might scale to, say, heading 1 size, make the width a bit higher. The same is true for the copy. We want it to probably be the traditional body copy size. So I'll detach from the small and come back to, I'll deselect, come back to body. It's all ready to go. And we definitely need more content in this case. So I will get about 4 paragraphs worth, paste those in. Select that text, just shift and return a few times. You can add another group of our block quote. Maybe I'll just grab what's on our design system and add that. So copy that with Command C and paste it with Command V, and just add this into our mix here just to give a little bit more dynamic qualities to this blog post. So the idea here is that this would probably go away, and this would be the feature image for this blog post, if that makes sense. Okay, great. So that's essentially just the initial concept of our main pages of the site that I think people will frequent. The rest will kind of come during the design stage, which is coming up next. So we'll start tackling that and then head into the mobile views as well. So look forward to that in the very next video.